Welcome. Hi, this is Carol from Skill Check. Let's talk about abandoning a storage space. Can you do it or not? Well, I try to not do it, but here are the facts. We'll talk about those at least. Um, the customer said, "What?" Because I think this is what I say to my managers when they say, "Oh, they told us that we could just give our stuff to charity." It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean your crap's still all in the unit? What do you mean? Or we can't come get our stuff, but can you sell it for us? No, no, we don't do that either. Oh, I love this one too. Can you ship our stuff to us? Yes. No. Yeah. They could have some other company do that, but then they'd have to still go through the process of, giving them keys and code and all of that stuff. Hey, how about you take half the profits of selling my stuff? How about that? Like, no, because there's no profit in all of this, not really. And it's really going to pay your storage stuff. It's not, I don't know. They think it's worth a lot more than it is, I think, sometimes. And then they get in situations, people get in situations where they get it there. And I just heard one recently where they were in Denver and they had their storage space was in Denver and they had moved to the East Coast. And now they said, well, it's going to be if we get a truck to come get it and take it back, and then we were trying to get a pod to do it. And then we still had to get someone to do it. And it was just a mess. And then finally they were just like, well, what do we do? Well, you can abandon it or you can let it go into lien sale and we'll sell it. But then if, and you owe any extra money, but they really can't afford to well, think about going from the East Coast and even getting a U-Haul now, almost impossible, right? So that would be very difficult to do. So it isn't easy, and some people do want to abandon the things. Make sure you have a provision in your rental agreement for this. And I'll give you some examples. Some self-storage agreements have provisions for certain conditions in which the space can be considered as abandoned. And for example, that would be removing a lock and then the person no longer pays rent. Maybe that's it. If they remove the lock, they no longer pay rent and they tell you, I would say, and it's certainly not something else, but this would not be my recommendation. I think it's easier, but well, it could be easier, not always. Yes, it is easier. It's probably easier, but there have been cases where a space was burglarized and the manager thought they simply moved out without notice. And that's really dangerous. When you think, you don't know how much stuff was in there. It didn't look like things were burglarized, but, a few things were taken out and then they thought the customer moved out and then they moved them out and just sort of abandoned it. But you really have to cover yourself by using the abandonment or release form. And I think you should have language like that in your agreement also. But you can get that form. I've got one if you need one. So also, as far as these abandonments go, I think you need a release of interest in the personal property of the customer. So you contact the customer, determine if possible, what happened. And again, if they give you you can have that crap, you say, okay, well, you said that verbally, but how will we ever prove that in court? So check with your supervisor, your owner, before you ever abandon a storage space or vacate it from the software when you customer has told you, hey, we don't want it anymore for whatever reason. The customer that is on the rental agreement, the name that's on the rental agreement, make sure they sign a release of owner's interest in personal property, because this form is really important. Again, it's just one more thing that you could say, listen, this customer did know that we were going to get rid of it and they were abandoning it and that, they owed us money and we wrote it off, basically. So and if you need one of those, you can contact my office for it. Abandonment of goods. It could be, again, a potential break-in. So you want to make sure, or maybe a domestic issue between two people, or it doesn't even have to be domestic. It can be, well, siblings. It could be just friends that went in together on something, and it could be an actual break-in though. So be careful about that. You don't want to wrongfully dispose of something because that will certainly cause you a lawsuit. So there is a lot of danger signs around anytime you want to abandon the goods in a unit. What if the actual customer doesn't sign the abandonment form? Well, that to me is problematic. You want to proceed with the lien sale as opposed to, trying to do anything else. Just based on whatever your state lien law is, go ahead and start the lien process in. There are some states that do allow operators to abandon storage units. And if that's true, you'll know what state you're in, because in all the states I operate in, they don't allow for just abandonment. Abandoning without the tenant's agreement. Yeah, you abandoned it and you didn't tell us, so they're not really agreeing to it. But you want to make sure you take photographs, or some of you do videos. That's fine also. And this is just to say, if something ever did go to court, you would have some proof that it was junk or that it wasn't worth much at all. And that's why we only got $25 for it, or we just got rid of it. It looked like trash. And they thought there were treasures in it. I would also inventory it just like you would for a lien sale. Again, that may be videos, pictures, whatever that is. I have brought in auction buyers in the past. I give you a good example of this because I had a whole 10 by 30, well, two 10 by 30s full of hardwood flooring, and it was all in boxes. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not, this is too expensive of something to sell it at auction. I did try to sell it. I invited some people in the community to come in that had in the store, because I thought, oh well, I'll have these other companies come in, because we had bamboo, there was all kinds of stuff, and it was all still boxed, so I knew it was valuable. But and then when I got a bid for like $300 for this 110 by 20, I just said I'm going to take a minimum bid on this, and I said it ahead of time that there would be a minimum bid. And I only got $300 bid. So I went and I decided to just go to these other places and went to the hardwood flooring people. And then I had them come out and give me estimates of what it was worth. And the weird thing is the customer was from China, and he was we we never could find him or anything, so we finally just gave up. And I literally had it there, I'm sure, 6 months, and by the time I got it out completely, it was about a year. But I did get several $1,000s for the space. It was in San Francisco, so I finally found some people that saw the value in it, but it did take me a while to do that. So think about that when you're doing stuff like this. Be very, very careful. And if you're not really sure, get advice from a storage attorney. They're great to give advice. Sometimes you can just call them and email them, or it doesn't hurt to pay them if it doesn't take long and stuff. They don't charge you much. But if you aren't sure, ask for help. And all else fails, you can call me, and I'll try to get you in the right directions for answers. But it is always good to have a really good rental agreement that covers you, and a good storage attorney. I try not to use anyone that doesn't know storage, because it's a little more. The storage attorneys are really good at what they do. We've got some great attorneys in storage. I'm really glad for that. Well, thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe and like and share. It really means a lot to me. I appreciate all of those of you that support and listen to my videos and stuff on YouTube. So thank you again. And I love any kind of feedback of what other topics. So if you need to get a hold of me, there's my 800 number, my email, and you can find us at skillcheck.com. Again, this is Carol Mixon, and happy renting.